I'm Kristin Andree, founder and chief strategist of Andree Consulting Group. I founded my company almost 10 years ago because I love helping people not only succeed, but thrive in their careers and their lives. So many times I meet amazing people who have so much more potential than what they're utilizing. As I engage with them, there seems to be a common theme: the limits they place on themselves. Throughout this podcast series, we're going to visit some incredible people who have created more intentional lives for themselves, those who've had that no limits moment where they chose to grow and they put things in motion to help them do so. We will focus on how you can break through limits. We will equip you with strategies to help you lead a more intentional life, and we will have a lot of fun along the way. So let's dive in. Everybody, and welcome to this episode of No Limits with Kristin Andree. We are here with Stefanie Diaz, who is a speaker, a coach, and the founder of WOE, which is Women Only Entrepreneurs. So Stefanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Glad to have you. So tell us a little bit about your journey and the women that you work with here in Atlanta.
Yes. So the quick story of my journey. Coming out of college, I had the good fortune to land within a startup. Okay. And that was my firsthand experience with entrepreneurship. I was reporting right into the owner and entrepreneur, and we grew that company to over 100 million in annual revenue.
Whoa,
and
that's awesome.
It was an incredible learning experience, and that really gave me a lot of confidence in that I knew a lot about running and growing a business.
Okay.
And then from there, it was just the journey to find out what that business would be and to really discover what my purpose was.
Yeah. And
it was a few years later, taking that experience and helping a family member launch their business, that connected me to this concept of, I've learned so much, and there are people that are excited to take the jump, but they have a few gaps to fill in to really help them lay the right foundation.
Okay.
And so with that, in 2015, I launched my first solo venture called Mastermind Your Launch with a podcast as well.
Very nice.
Yes. Okay. And I just started helping entrepreneurs along their way. Got really involved in the Atlanta tech startup community. And then a little over a year ago, I just started feeling this calling on my heart to work with women.
Yep.
And that is where WOE came from.
Very neat. Okay. So I've seen a lot of your events because I follow you online. You know that we were talking about that earlier. So you have some really cool stuff that you do, but it's not just, when I've looked at the events and what we've talked about before is they're varied. I mean, you've talked about mastermind stuff, you've talked about getting started, and then it seems like you're building not just informational events, but a community.
Absolutely.
So talk to the community a little bit.
I even love the word tribe because that's how deep it goes.
Yeah.
I think there are so many organizations out there, bringing people together and providing valuable information. But I really believe that it can go to a deeper level than that. I think people really want to be their authentic selves and connect with other people on that real level. I'm sure we've all had that experience of going to a networking event and you feel like, I'm having surface level conversations. I'm not able to talk about the real stuff. I'm not even able to be my real self. I don't like this blazer that I wore,
absolutely.
It just all doesn't feel real. And then you walk away and you might have made some good connections. You might have some great business cards, now in your Rolodex, but it all just didn't really go deep enough. And that is where WOE comes in. We really are thoughtful in the type of programming that we do that allows you to, whether it is your first event, you're stepping through the door, for the first time, you're going to be embraced, you're going to be seen, and the activities and environment and energy are going to allow you to put your walls down. You're going to see that other people are doing the same, and you can, from that place, make some real connections. And then bonus, everyone in the room is a badass woman doing amazing things.
Exactly.
So you're able to form these incredible relationships that energize you, not just for that day and that event, but then carry you for the next steps in your own journey.
And I think that's hugely important because when I've been back in Atlanta, I grew up in Georgia, you can tell by the accent, but I'd moved away for 20 years. And when I came back, I wanted to get involved in the community. So I did what everybody does, women's organizations in Atlanta, and you Google and you go to these events and you're just like, yeah, this is, I always tell my clients, try it out, try a group out, try it once or twice, see if you like it, give it a chance. But so many of the events I went to, they were dry, they were boring, there was no content, there was no depth. It was people just, I call them the card pushers, the ones that are just handing out their business card or just trying to collect others, and there wasn't anybody to connect with.
Well, and so here's the funny thing. I never gravitated towards women's organizations.
Really?
The startup that I mentioned, that was in the pharmaceutical industry.
Okay.
So male dominated. Yep. I was typically the youngest, only woman in the room, and I was fine with that.
Yep.
I was proud of the success that I had in that industry. And while, yes, I would have loved to see more women, especially more women that I would have liked to have as mentors and things like that. I just did what I had with what you just, do what you can. And I had a lot of success. And then from there, getting involved in the tech startup community here. There's a lot of initiatives around diversity now, but it's still very male dominated.
I think that's why I look for women's groups, because my background was in finance, and there just weren't a lot of female advisors when I was coming up. And even today in that industry, finance is very male dominated. I was craving the connection piece, which, maybe in my head I was thinking, I'll get this better with a group of women, which happens, I'd say. And I don't know, you mentioned it was kind of on your heart to like, all right, I really want to start working with more women. I think that's fantastic.
Well, you said you were craving it. I didn't realize that I was craving it. Yeah. And so what happened was there were a series of events that happened in my life that really woke me up to it is time to work with women. And at that point, I'm like, it's so funny that I resisted, all of these like women's organizations. And now it's the thing that I am the most passionate about.
It was almost like it was knocking at your door.
It knocked me over the head with a 2x4 is what it did.
But sometimes I think that happens because, my practice is shifted a lot. The coaching portion of my practice, where it used to be predominantly financial advisors, and I still have a lot of financial advisors in my client base, but I'm seeing so many more women, and they're fun. Not that I don't love the guys I work with, because they're a phenomenal group of men, but I'm seeing a lot of really unique women, and just like you said, just really tough Wonder Woman type of people, and Beautiful. It's just a fun group to be with, and the authenticity I think is there. But you mentioned earlier that having those groups and just building the tribe has been important. So what has that meant to the part of WOE that, the women you serve? What is having that community meant for them?
Oh my gosh. I mean, the beautiful thing about it from so many different angles, one, we have such a breadth of, women with different skill sets and talents. And so it's really beautiful to see how they interact, how they point business to each other, how they collaborate together.
I see that a lot in the women's group, because there are a couple groups I'm involved in. I'm the board of a women's group here, and I see that a ton. The collaboration, and just, it seems very natural. It's not, no one's really asking. A lot of networking group people ask for business. And there, I think it's organic. It's really organic.
The inspiration just comes about through a coffee meeting or a conversation. And, everyone has different strengths. And when you're plugged into a community, you're able to, connect with the people whose strengths might actually be your weakness. And so you just see everyone get elevated from that. And so the more that they invest in being a part of the community, staying engaged, getting to know as many people within the community as possible, the more that I see all of them just elevate and rise to the occasion in new ways.
That's got to be rewarding.
It is incredibly rewarding. Well, it's funny too, because sometimes, I hear about things after the fact, and and I'm like, hey, I'm hearing about it after the fact. And so, but I love hearing these stories of, things that they're doing and what it means for them. I mean, when you're talking about running a business, launching a business, this is their livelihood. I mean, it's my livelihood. And so it's so much more than just getting a pat on the back or a boost in confidence. It can be life changing. And that is really incredible.
And it's so neat to see. I mean, I'm sure you have this with your clients as well. It's like, I love to see them win. Like, I get so excited. You know, some of my friends will not really tease me, but I get text at like all hours from clients, and not in a bad way. It's like, oh my gosh, you won't believe this just happened. And it's the coolest thing. Like, it's, you know, that you mentioned the pat on the back. That's the pat on the back. That's when you're like, they're like, we did this, or I landed this account or this client. It's so neat to see the growth happen.
It is, yeah. And to know, you know, on whatever level that I can play, big or small, in someone's success, then that's incredibly rewarding.
So what is made in the group, in the women that you have in your organization, what's been their biggest challenge, do you think? And I know you're across all different industry stuff, so
you know, with WOE, I describe the value that we bring as the science of building a business and the art of building yourself.
I like that.
Because,
awesome.
But I think you have to speak to both sides. And so when I look at these women, yes, I see beautiful things happening in their business, but I also see beautiful things happening in their life.
Absolutely.
And the way that they approach life differently, how they have a weight lifted off of their shoulders, which then is able to impact their business in every aspect of, you know, whatever it is that they touch. We're really holistic in that approach, knowing that, you know, you want to build a great business, but you don't want to be burnt out, you know, and you want it to have meaning. And you want it to have impact. And so how do you do that? And oftentimes it doesn't start with a business plan or a marketing plan. It starts with yourself. And we allow our conversations to go there.
Good. I think that's part. I was talking about that with somebody earlier today is, you know, while I do a lot of business strategy with the clients, half of it's everything up here. Everything is getting them ready. And I tell them my job is not only to make your business grow and more profitable, but to kind of tame the chaos a little bit and make sure they're having fun. I mean, there's a lot of fun you can have running your own business.
Well, and it's important. The more joy that you can infuse into it, I mean, honestly, the more, it's a great business strategy. The more you'll stand out. I mean, you know, the WOE main event is one of my favorite days. And actually, we're having one tonight at the Metropolitan Club. And there's just so much joy in that. And I think that resonates with the people who see it online and everything. And there's no big, you know, magic strategy for that. Just build from joy and see what you create. I think that's a huge point. So we're gonna pause for a minute and take a little break. And when we come back, we're gonna continue our conversation with Stefanie Diaz of WOE, and we're gonna dive into talking a little bit about intuition. So stay tuned. Everyone, check out my podcast, No Limits with Kristin Andree, on Tuesday nights at 7:30. We will tackle the things holding you back and the limits you set on yourself and equip you with some strategies to lead more intentional lives. Podcast launches every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. on Facebook.com/Andree Group. That's Facebook.com/ANDREE Group. We'll see you there. Welcome back, everyone, to the No Limits with Kristin Andree podcast. We are here with Stefanie Diaz, who's a speaker, a coach, and the founder of WOE Atlanta. So before the break, we were talking about kind of joy and all that type of stuff, but we're also starting to dive in a little bit to intuition, which I know is one of your favorite topics. Yes, it is. So you mentioned you do a lot of speaking on this. I do. Yeah. So what's the name of your talk you were telling us about? My signature talk is called The Deep Dive. Okay. And it's based on a program that I have as well that really guides women through, to gain the tools and resources they need to get to the depth of who they are and the work that they're meant to do. And I feel like in business, that's often overlooked, unless and I feel like in our coaching practices, we do that a lot, but in the corporate world or somebody that maybe hadn't had exposure to a group like yours, they're not used to thinking about that. Leading from your intuition versus the framework or, the advice and everything, it's not the norm at all. Yeah. And for me, it's been a muscle that I've had to work over time. You can't just make the switch from one to the other.
Right.
I think it reveals itself in layers and levels.
Okay.
And it's something that you trust. You can do on bigger levels the more and more that you trust it. So it's kind of like starting with small little things of your intuition, and then allowing it to grow from there. But I think we could probably all point to a time when we knew better and we didn't trust our intuition.
Right.
And then later on, we found ourselves in a spot that we did not want to be in. And we had to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, you know what? I had a feeling that I shouldn't have taken that step, but I didn't listen to that voice. I didn't trust it.
And intuition is, I agree with you, 1 gazillion %. And intuition's very important. And you're right, we don't listen to it enough. But I feel like most of the time when we talk about intuition and our experiences with it, they're personal. They're in our personal lives. Mm-hmm. And we don't really think about intuition as much with business. Like if I think of the biggest examples of where my gut was saying, I'll get this pit in my stomach, and I've had some bad ones where I didn't listen to pit in my stomach and it just was catastrophe. They were on the personal side. But then when you get to your business life, it's almost like we shelf the intuition. Mm-hmm. We most people,
unfortunately,
I would think, just kind of put it to the wayside, and they think, all business is good business. I need to just go after this. So how do you help people learn to pay attention to that little pit in the stomach?
Well, first of all, I want to dive deep into, what kind of visions are you having about, the work that you want to do or who you really are?
Okay.
This might sound odd, but, WOE, I wish I could say it was so well thought out and it was in the master plan and everything. It wasn't. It found me and it revealed itself over time. But if I'm honest with myself, I can go back very far and I've had visions of pieces of this.
Sure.
Speaking on stages, helping women, the service, all of that was there. And so, I can look back and say, wow, my intuition had been calling me to this. And yet maybe there were moments where I followed some money. And so I went off in this direction. And I'm not going to say that any of those decisions were bad. They've all,
brought you where you are.
They've all brought me to the right place and added to this experience, given me, wisdom that I can impart. Mm-hmm. But the seeds of it have always been there.
I think that I like that when you said that, it made me think, we all have that to an extent, because I can think back and it's really interesting to see the path my career has taken over the past 20, 30 years, 20, 25 years, that it's molded a lot. And it's every step I take and move, it's not always in a straight line, but it gets me closer to where I want to be. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because I had this conversation with actually a client of mine recently who has become a good friend. I've known her for 10 years, I believe. And we were talking about some of the projects I'm working on. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's totally you. And it just, when you say it to somebody else that's known you a while, they go, oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. And you're like, oh, how come you knew this and I didn't? So I think it's probably that piece that we aren't listening to the intuition enough.
100%. And I'll just share, from my personal experience, the more that you follow your intuition, the more you have to let go of what society deems as normal, or the right way, but that becomes, it's the easiest and hardest thing to do when you're standing in your truth. When you're standing in your truth and you know it to the depth, it's the easiest thing for you to claim. But when you realize that is so different than what other people are going to expect or believe is safe or believe is the right way for you, staying there is hard. And that's part of what the deep dive work is meant to help women with, is knowing, like, you want to stand in your truth, you want to live out your purpose, and I want you to do that. But we do have to honor the fact that you will be met with resistance. Right. And will you retreat to what you've always known, or will you stand strong in what is your truth?
And so many people, and women especially, I feel, retreat. I mean, they get there and they're built, and it's not always from, I've found at least, it's not always from the people you expect. Sometimes the people I think are going to be like, ooh, Chris, are you sure this is the right idea? They're the ones that are like, oh, go for it. You'll be fantastic. And then kind of the outliers that you thought would be your biggest cheerleaders are kind of the ones poking holes in things a little bit. So you don't know. Sometimes I feel that the resistance coming at you part of it's like, oh, I didn't expect that. Right. Or I didn't expect that from them. So
100%.
Yeah. So how do you get them to push past that limit of resistance?
So for me, I have had to just be really graceful in letting things fall away.
Okay.
If I'm rising to a new level, or whether it's in business or a new level of joy in my life, and I'm pursuing what I believe is the path to take me there, and then someone, however long we've known each other, if they're a new acquaintance or if they're a lifelong friend, but if they're not understanding or empathetic, or even just have like a listening ear, I don't need you to agree with me, but what energy are you bringing me in this moment?
Absolutely.
Then, because I don't want to hear, don't sugarcoat anything. Tell me the truth, but do it in a graceful and
caring way,
and respectful way. Yeah. I've had to get really okay with letting things go, because I know that this is my path, and if something leaves, that's making space for something new. And this goes in everything. I mean, we're kind of talking about it a little bit in relationships here, but it also, like in your business, if you want to rise to a new level, what are you going to have to let go? There might be operations or activities,
it could be clients.
There's always something that has to get carved out. A lot of times when people are looking to achieve something new or attract something new, they think, I need to add this, I need to do this. But I like to say first, what do you need to cut?
Right.
What doesn't belong in this new aspect of your life or your business?
And I think you have a good point. Sometimes it's people. I always tell people I heard Gary Vaynerchuk say earlier this year, at the beginning of the year, he's like, make your goal, drop one loser friend, add one winner friend. I was like, that's fantastic. I mean, as simple as it is, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I put that on my business plan for this year. But sometimes it's people, sometimes it's clients. It's things that we're filling our schedule with that we don't necessarily need to be filling our schedule with. It's saying no to the wrong thing so you can say yes to the right things.
Yeah, you've got to make the space.
Yeah, and I feel like that ties back into intuition. We were talking about intuition a minute ago. It's in your gut. Most of us do. Most of us, when, I tell my clients, if you look at your calendar and there's somebody or something on it where you're going, probably shouldn't be there. And we all have it.
Yeah.
We all, as bad as it sounds, I'm very particular now, and I'm fortunate at this stage in my practice that I'm picky with my clients that I take, because I want to be their biggest cheerleader. I want to love working with them. I never want to look at my calendar and say, oh man, I got to talk to so-and-so today.
Well, you want to be in your zone.
Absolutely. And it took a while to get there. I think especially entrepreneurs have a little bit more flexibility than, corporate people, but it took a while to get there, but man, it's a great place to be. When you get up every day and go, all right, I get to talk to so-and-so and so-and-so today. It's a fun thing.
You're in your flow.
Right. So then, exactly. And then you kind of and it makes everything else easier. I feel like it makes your personal life, going to the gym. I'm not a gym person, but I go. So I feel like it makes things like that, it's just easier because you're in a good space.
Right. What's that joy that we were talking about? Yeah. It's so important.
Absolutely.
And life is too short to build your life around things that don't bring you joy.
Way too short. Way too short. So we're going to take a pause for a minute. And when we come back, every episode we like to issue a challenge to our listeners based on what we've talked about. So Stefanie and I are going to come back and give you your No Limits challenge for this episode. See you in a minute. Hey everyone, it's Kristin. Be sure and visit my website at www.andreegroup.com. That's www.andreegroup.com. And while you're there, be sure to download my white paper, Top 10 Reasons Your Business Isn't Growing Fast Enough. Now get out there and create your No Limits moment. Welcome back, everyone, to the No Limits with Kristin Andree podcast. We are here with Stefanie Diaz, coach and speaker and founder of WOE Atlanta. So before we paused for a minute, we were talking about the challenge. And every episode, guys, you know this, if you're listening, we like to issue a challenge to our listeners just to help them break through limits, to push past whatever it is that's holding them back. So we were chatting a little bit during the break. So what's our challenge to the listeners today?
Okay, so your challenge, if you choose to accept it,
That's right.
is to look, and you can do this either by looking at your calendar or looking at your community and connections, and be really honest with yourself and identify something that needs to be let go. And do this from a really loving place because you're making space for something beautiful to take its place. So that's your challenge.
That's a challenge. So this could be an item, a to-do, a person. It could be any of the above, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. And the scarier, the better.
The scarier, the better.
Yes.
So I said earlier that was on my list for this year, and I did. I let go of let's just call it toxic person that I know, which
Those
is
are
a
the
big
first.
one.
There's something. It's usually they've probably already thought of it. Like I already know what
they
I
know
need
who
to
it
do.
is.
Yeah.
If you're listening, you had the person that popped in your head,
yes,
or the thing that you're dreading doing this week. You already know it. You already know it. So how can they make sure they follow through with this?
Well, is there a Facebook group? Is there some
Facebook
accountability group?
There we go.
Yeah.
So we do have a group. We want to share it. I would encourage you to have an accountability buddy because I had to have one of my closest friends kind of hold my feet to the fire with this.
I'll say, okay, I like that. Okay, so part 2 of the challenge is identify someone, your winner friend.
Yep.
Identify your winner friend and have a conversation with them about this decision that you're making, and let them know why you're doing it. They might give you some amazing feedback that you weren't thinking of before. It could lead to a really incredible conversation about both of your journeys in this moment, and make sure that they hold you accountable and following through.
And I think that's perfect. The accountability is key. And to help you do that, we created a group on Facebook. And so if you go to Facebook and go to #NoLimitsMoment, you will be able to follow the conversation. What we encourage you to do is share your story. Let us know what your challenge was or how you overcame the challenge and the moment that you broke through that limit that you put in front of yourself. So we hope you will join us on Facebook. Again, #NoLimitsMoment. And Stefanie, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited.
Thank you.
Where can everybody check you out and make sure they know about all your events here in Atlanta?
Of course. Well, if you want to come to a WOE event and join the tribe, you can visit WOEATL.com, WOEATL.com. You'll see our full calendar. You'll see our membership levels as well for those women who are thinking of launching a business or those women who are already in motion. We have some different packages for you. I also, as you mentioned, I do speaking and I do coaching around the deep dive, especially. And so you can learn all about that at yourdeepdive.com.
I think that's perfect. Thank you so much for being here. Valuable insight. And I love it. I love it. And I know you said that you've got all these events coming up, so best of luck with the events. I'm going to check it out because I did hear that sometimes there's some fun and some dancing at these events.
So what you can expect at WOE, an amazing interview with an incredible female founder. We have affirmations, we have dancing, DJ, and champagne.
Oh, champagne.
Had us there. Ladies' night with unstoppable women.
That's right. Perfect. Well, thank you again so much for being on the show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And again, don't forget to join us on Facebook at #NoLimitsMoment. Until next episode, we'll see you later.